Alright, for in this video, I will be presenting my chapter 2. I'll be presenting my chapter 2, which is my literature review, where I'll be giving a little elaborations on my theories that I'll be using it, as well as explaining a little bit about my theoretical framework. Okay, so basically there are two theories that I selected for my thesis currently, and I will be making further read-ups to actually gain more understanding, because both that I have taken is based on positive psychology and a little bit of social psychology. So the first theory that I chose is actually social identity theory by Henry Touchfeld in 1973. Okay, so this theory in a nutshell, it talks about three things. It talks about how we perceive and we group ourselves with people, because this can be similarized with Maslow hierarchy of needs, where after the basic needs, which is the first level, humans actually progress to the next level, which is love and belonging. Love and belonging, where we try to find sense of togetherness and security when we be with other people. So in this case, in educational psychology, this is why we have some cases we have bullying, some places we have victimization, because research actually found out that kids love to be bullied just to be a part of them, like just to be a part of the gang, just to be a part of the people, just to be a part of the school. And they actually modify their personality. Like a lot of kids literally hate themselves internally, because they tried modifying, and they always have the question of, why am I not as beautiful as that girl? Why am I not as smart as that boy? Why am I not as active and athletic as this person? Why am I not like this? Why am I not like that? It's because that they fail to get the sense of belonging. In the terms of these LGBTQ community students, uh, although physically they might be belonging in the group, but mentally and socially, personality and cognitive wise, they are not. Because technically, if they are someone, if they are accepted or like being treated as a common being, which is like us, I'm pretty sure that there won't be discrimination happening. And all this research is for nothing if that thing exists. If self-belonging, belongingness or togetherness among LGBTQ groups exists, I feel like this research has no purpose to be done. Alright, so for Henry Touchfeld, he discusses three components in it. So the first one is categorization, the second one is identification, the third one is comparison. So the first one, categorization, is basically we grouping people based on our views. So when we go out, basically through observation, we can already see people. So for example, like the studious group in the library, the nerd groups in the library, the workaholic people in the office, the one that is literally on leave and half days and everything. The patterns, the behaviors actually shape groups. It's what we see, we perceive, and we relate ourselves to a group. For example, like myself, I when I go out, I usually identify myself, or if I'm at a party or something, I will usually identify myself with the most quietest group. There'll be some that will be sitting at the sides, minding their own business. I'm someone like that. But as for my friend, he is someone who loves to go on the dance floor, talk with new people, chit chat, literally get the conversation to the end point where they exchange visiting cards. So this is people. And at the workplace, I observe, like categorize myself as the workaholic people, where I rarely take holidays, and most of my time is spent at the office, especially because I work and I study at the same place. So my job is literally sitting at the PC. Half of the time I'll be doing my work, half of the time I'll be studying. Compared to my workmates, because they are not a student probably, or they are light workers, I could say, maybe. So a lot of them will be on leaves. They have like this leave, that leave, event leave. They have a lot of things, and I often feel like, why am I not having any of those? So this is how I identify myself. So the next step is, the first one is categorizing. The second one is identifying. Identifying is one, we look at the people, and next the second step is we label ourselves. So in this case, when we label, we will categorize, we will like literally like put a name on ourselves, assign a task on ourselves, saying that I'm this. So for example, like there's a lot of things in psychology, there's like trillions of things you can group yourself with. So for example, I categorize myself as a Hindu, I categorize myself as a woman, I categorize myself under the group of master student, I categorize myself under the group of psychology, I categorize myself uh, in the group of introverted group. I categorize that there's like trillions of things that I could identify myself with. So at this stage, I am trying to associate myself with people. I'm looking at person A and see that, wow, that person is almost like me. I'm looking at person B, I'm saying like, no, you don't look like me, you don't behave like me. So I'm trying to get that matchness, I'm trying to create that match. And the third part, the third stage, the first one is the first one is categorize, the second one is identify, the third one is comparison. Comparison is where the idea or mindset of us versus them exists. Us is literally my gang or my group, or versus them is someone different. So for example, team athletic versus team non-athletic, team nerd, for example. uh, for example, uh, team bookworm versus team travelers, for example. So when this comparison, us versus them, comes in, it remains positive till to the point that we settle ourselves in a group. We find friends, we find people, we find partners, we find our own journey, we find the same aim, we share the same interest. It is good till that point, but things can get worse when we go over the board of us versus them. For example, in this case, ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is the belief that one's religion is higher, superior than the other. So in Malaysia, we do have that. Which means religion A feels religion A is superior because of this, thus religion B is under them, is minority, is this and that. So that is one of the example when us versus them becomes worse. And another one is a superiority complex. So where this happens where between seniors and juniors, basically, where someone who's more like aged or has more experience deems that the younger ones, or the latest or the newest people who's attending something, who's working together in a project, is unworthless. They don't know anything. Like there is a saying say that banyak makan garam, but this is way too much of makan garam. Like you are fanatic of what you associate yourself with. So like what I mentioned in the earlier slides, where people perceive that it is only them living on this earth, this can be attached to it. Excessive or exaggerative comparison, which is not good in this case, because heterosexual are actually over these LGBTQ people, and to be truth, frankly, we are treating them very badly. And there's like small groups like which literally accepts them as a human being just the way they are, but social comparisons again, and we are not free from social expectations as well, forces them to actually us go overboard in some sense. So this, I think this sums up the first theory. And the second theory, I actually chose Seligman's three dimension of happiness. So this one is taken from Positive Psychology on the year of 2002. So in this case, Mr. Seligman actually, he says there's three types of happiness, and each one moves according to stage. So the first one is literally pleasure and gratification. The second one is embodiment of strength and virtue, and the third one is meaning and purpose. So the first one, pleasure and gratification. When I speak of that word, immediately what comes to my mind is eat. Three states of mind: eat, ego and superego, eat. So it basically represents gratification. I want it, I get it. So this can be referred to the simple stages of happiness, where like you crave for ice cream, you really want for ice cream, chocolates, and you get it. So that is happiness, stage one. And the next one is embodiment of strength and virtue. This literally means when you get deeper into yourself, you feel like you love yourself. The best way that I can describe is love yourself, because you accept yourself for truly who you are. You accept your plus, minus, you deal with your minuses, you approach everything, you fall in love with yourself. Your strength and virtue gives you happiness. And the third one is meaning and purpose, the life that you live in. There's actually a well-known Tamil song, which actually, it's a philosophical song, which actually asks the question of what means you? What means you? So the answer for that question is actually, you are not you by your body, by your not your body, by your soul. You're not you by your name. You are you by your behaviors and your actions. So this represents meaning and purpose. So for me, I felt like my life is purposeful. So I'm going through the correct path that I sketched for. Everything is according to what I built. So yes, meaning and purpose. So this is what Mr. Seligman actually explained in 3 types of happiness. And the way we deal with 3 types of happiness in his perspective is dealing with the past first. Yes. When you deal with the past, you actually go through, you make peace with yourself. What has happened is happened. Now we go for the better one. You don't keep resentment, you don't regret, you don't be sad, you don't get disappointed, because things have been past and you can do better things to make it better. So dealing with the past is the first way for him. For the second way is actually happiness in the present. Whatever you get now is what you're happy for. In this case, appreciation. Appreciation, appreciation, being mindful, being aware currently. With whatever you have, be grateful. And then the third one is being optimistic about the future. It is correct, and society never let us actually to live happily with what we have. It's always like, if you don't do this now, you'll suffer later. You don't do this now, you'll suffer later. If you don't save up money, you will suffer later. If you don't get a property, if you don't study it. But people are different. Happiness is different for everyone. For some, that money means sum of money is happiness. But for some people, that sum of money means extra burden. For some people, studying is a joy. But for some people, books are a nightmare for them. Which is why we have 2 kinds of people, book smart and street smart. So each kind of people is valid. And in order to be that, we should be optimistic about the future. And I always think, never regret your decisions, never regret the risk you take. So being optimistic about the future, regardless who we are and what path we choose, like the 3 types of happiness, no matter what kind of happiness we choose, make sure it ends in the way that gives you happiness. And in this sense, when I correlate with the LGBTQ community, I feel like as a society, we never let them to deal with their past, never let them to resolve with the past, because we are constantly pushing them. And to be happy in the present, they are not even given anything, like a small hope for them to be happy and to be optimistic about the future. If their past and present is not settled and they are not secure about their ways in living in Malaysia, how do you think they are going to be optimistic in the future? Which is why I think a lot of our third gender's friends are actually running away to the overseas. Which is why I think so. Personally, that's my opinion. So yes, this is it for this chapter. And here Please give me a minute. I will show you my theoretical framework and have a small explanation about it. 1 minute, yeah.